We're 6 weeks into the new season of South Park, which this year means we just got our 4th episode of the season titled Walk is Dead. An episode that had Butters searching for a super rare Labubu, put Jesus in a new role as school counselor, and had a massive Trump Hussein x Satan reveal that likely will have major ramifications on the remainder of the season, and maybe beyond. And the episode had a shocking number of similarities to an array of classic South Park episodes as well. There is tons to go over, so let's talk about season 27, episode 4, Walk is Dead. And hey, if you like this breakdown, not only am I going to cover every episode of the new season, but I have a ton of South Park episode, character, and lore breakdowns across the channel, so consider subscribing. Thanks. So it seems like the major cultural headline for this week's episode is definitely going to be their focus on LABUBUS, which took center stage immediately, putting a spotlight on a lot of the girl characters actually, including ones we don't get to see that often. And I thought their angle here was pretty funny, with the girls very excitedly discussing their LABUBUS before devolving into full-on fist fights 100% of the time. This definitely seems like a storyline that was at least partially inspired by Trey's daughter Betty, who actually takes on probably her most prominent role she's ever had in the show as her character Betsy here. Betsy has appeared just a handful of times, most recently debating Clyde in Got a Nut, but she gets a ton of dialogue in this episode and the main focus up top.
I actually have chestnut cocoa, Labubu.
No way! That is the rarest one!
Isn't it so cute?
Honestly, I love to see Trey giving his daughter a more substantial role here, particularly because she really nailed it. She had to do a lot more than usual and gave a very, very funny performance. I laughed pretty hard at a lot of her line deliveries.
What kind of counseling was that?
I don't know, Jesus sucks, dude.
Because the kid focus in this one lands on the girls and Butters, the main boys are barely in it, just a little bit of Cartman and Kenny at the top of the episode, and though this is at least a kid-focused story, it is a bit disappointing that we haven't gotten a real substantial story about the main 4 boys yet, but you know, we do love a Butters story. It was also fun to get a bit of focus on some of the background girls in this one. Red being the most prominent was a real surprise. Even Sophie, who was introduced in the episode Basic Cable, got her first lines since that episode, though she was previously played by Becca Scott from Geek and Sundry's How to Play fame, and definitely wasn't in this one. This episode actually had a lot going on, with the Labubu story sort of tying everything together. Basically, the craze leads Butters to City Walk, which is now an Asian pop-up stand where he can buy the super expensive blind boxes, made even more expensive due to the tariffs. Changing City Walk to a pop-up stand and proclaiming Walk is Dead was also a pretty funny way to continue the Woke is Dead theme started in the first episode of the season. Not to mention, we got one of our few ever appearances of Lou Kim's wife, Wing, from the season 9 episode, aptly titled Wing. So many little callbacks here. This entire season seems to just be littered with small references to episodes from much older eras. I did really enjoy how they portrayed the whole Labubu game. As somebody who collected Pokemon cards from 2017 to like 2023, the gambly nature of the Labubu market felt very familiar. And it was funny to see Wing criticize Lou Kim for taking advantage of children when he was passing the buck of the tariffs down to the consumer.
Oh, here we go. I get screwed by tariffs, so I have to screw the children.
Speaking of tariffs, while this episode did feature Trump Hussein, it was a pretty subdued appearance, mostly used as a vehicle for the show to continually ask or state Donald Trump is fucking Satan, which, you know, respect to the wordplay this season. Between this and master debating, they're doing a lot of it. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of people already fed up with the Trump Hussein stuff from the first 3 episodes, claiming that it's just the same small package joke over and over again. But the first 3 episodes definitely just used those jokes as like seasoning, while each episode also focused on specific criticism and satire towards the president. The first was pointedly about his obsession with suing people and institutions. The second one likened Mar-a-Lago to Epstein Island while criticizing ICE, and the third was all about how he surrounds himself with sycophants and enablers. This one felt like the criticism was not so specific. Sure, it was tangentially about the tariffs, but all of the Trump sequences were just kind of the same bit. Fox News getting really turned on by the Trump Satan speculation.
And I'm not saying if he is or he isn't, I'm just kind of hoping he is.
I'd say I definitely preferred the previous 3 episodes in their political commentary, but as we'll talk about later, this one is definitely setting setting up some big season-long lore. The non-Satan side of this episode is pretty fittingly about Jesus. I actually love the development that he's now just the new school counselor after Mackie was fired in the second episode of the season. It feels like there's some subtle commentary here. Bringing Jesus back to the schools, as they said in the first episode, was never as simple as, we're gonna let kids pray again. Now here we see Jesus is becoming a fundamental part of the school system, not just putting him back in the school, despite this being an unconstitutional lack of separation of church and state. Hey, did y'all hear that starting this year, every classroom in Texas has to have the 10 Commandments on display? I'm not sure why I just thought of that, but I like this as a place for Jesus, the character, in South Park. It's funny to see a 2,000-year-old guy try to navigate modern trends, just absolutely baffled by the concept of LABUBUS.
Tell her to stop saying my LABUBUS are knockoffs.
I'm sorry. What is a labubu?
Also adored this photo behind his desk with God. Just a nice photo of a father and son. But the absolute biggest laugh I got this entire episode was the school meeting where they showed off the Labubu TikToks that the kids are making, revealing that the kids do full-on satanic rituals with them after unboxing a rare one. I loved this angle for the storyline. For one, Labubus absolutely do look demonic, so it's a fun and natural connection to make, but also a subversion of a satanic panic storyline. I like here that something as innocent as Labubus actually are being used satanically. It's pretty funny in 2025. Okay, here's a little tangent I want to go down. The school meeting gave us our first look at Strong Woman in the new season, a character we obviously know is married to PC Principal and even has kids with him. However, she didn't speak or really have any real presence in the episode outside of just kind of sitting there. And I'm curious if this is because they're still trying to figure out what to do with her now that PC Principal is Power Christian Principal. Has Strong Woman also shifted to Power Christian mode? And what of the PC babies? Are they Power Christian babies now? Honestly, that sounds like a decent piece of drama to center an episode around. It could be about the change in dynamic once PC Principal switched his ideology, or maybe PC Principal's conversion actually stemmed from some friction in his relationship. Maybe they broke up. Maybe PC Principal is a sad divorced dad now. Definitely feels like something worth exploring, and was a little strange to see Strong Woman just be completely silent at school. Although maybe this is also just commentary on how woke is dead. Now a strong woman stays silent. Okay, let's talk about this big Trump/Satan development. I think one of the issues I had with this episode was that this story felt a little hollow. That side of the episode was mostly filled with the Fox News Trump-Satan jokes, but I think maybe getting a little bit more screen time showing this from Satan's perspective could have gone a long way. I did really enjoy the one scene where Tattoo Fantasy Island JD Vance clumsily tries to console Satan. I think it's sort of always been funny when they show Satan, Prince of Darkness, just genuinely depressed and going through an existential crisis. That's probably my favorite aspect of Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. The fact that Satan has the I Want song in that musical is genuinely genius. So I did also enjoy Satan sitting in this garden, lamenting that he's trapped at the White House, opening up to this creepy little JD Vance.
I wanted to leave months ago, but I cannot. Because of what's in this box.
But I also think that the way the stories all sort of tied together felt a tiny bit lacking. Don't get me wrong, I think the Labubu satanic ritual is genuinely one of the funniest things in the episode and maybe in the entire season so far, but there wasn't a ton of clarity about the kids' motivation in doing the Labubu satanic ritual. They seemed to expect Satan would show up, but then they were also scared of him. What were they intending to do when he got there? Maybe it wasn't necessary to explain this. Maybe the entire point is that the kids are just following fads without thinking them through. I just felt like the reveal of Trump and Satan in the summoning circle was sort of the obvious expected one. And oftentimes South Park manages to hit us with surprises in these moments. I did like that there was at least a bit of continuity in terms of the kids summoning Satan, something we've seen a few times in the show now. Back in Freemium Isn't Free, Stan simply prayed and Satan answered him, but in Time to Get Cereal, Al Gore and the boys do a very similar summoning circle, complete with sacrificial chicken. But the place the episode did surprise is obviously the major M-Preg reveal. The reason Satan is tied to Trump is because he's pregnant with his child, and I expect that this is basically going to be the major ongoing serialized element for the remainder of season 27. And structurally, I really like how the season is operating. Each entry is largely episodic, with the Trump Hussein/Satan stuff acting as a smaller serialized through line. And honestly, I feel like there are a lot of possibilities with what they've set up here. Also, just just another example of what we've seen them do every episode this season, portray Trump as intrinsically tied to something evil. But the whole Satan is pregnant thing, along with a bunch of other aspects, actually bizarrely make this feel like a sister episode to season 1's Damien. And other aspects of the episode make it feel akin to classics like Chinpokomon and Raisins as well. Obviously, the Asian fad takes over South Park aspect of the story is a lot like Chinpokomon. In fact, you even see some Chinpokomon figures at the Asian pop-up at City Walk, and the way that Red sort of manipulates Butters into getting her a specific Labubu for her birthday feels like two things. One, Butters not really understanding the transactional nature of his relationship with Lexus in Raisins, and two, Cartman demanding very specific Mega Man action figures for his birthday in Damien. Damien is obviously a season 1 episode about the son of Satan, and is also centered around a major showdown between Satan and Jesus. It's actually kind of wild how much this has in common with that episode. A character demanding specific birthday presents, a plot line about the offspring of Satan, a big showdown between Jesus and the Prince of Darkness. And obviously there are also plenty of possibilities in regards to where they'll go with this Satan pregnancy story. I'm curious if they'll finally acknowledge Damien again, though it feels unlikely. They pretty much ignored him after season 1. They didn't even acknowledge him in the South Park movie. I was definitely very intrigued by what Satan had in that box, but I obviously never would have guessed what it was. But this satanic box design and the rhetoric from Satan does feel akin to what we saw in the South Park movie. Obviously, I'm drawing these comparisons because of the whole Trump-Hussein connection in this season, but the way he's sitting here talking about this in the White House garden feels like there could be more to it. There are lines here that obviously feel very prophetic and serious, and the joke is that they're actually referring to his pregnancy. But there's one line that doesn't really line up with that bit.
The final showdown is upon us.
So I guess maybe this could have been in reference to Satan facing off with Jesus at the end of the episode, but that wasn't much of a showdown. I feel like this could end up having larger ramifications down the line, but also it seems kinda clear that they're mostly just seeing where the story takes them week by week. Satan telling Towley that there was no escape last week felt like a bigger, more ominous reveal was coming, and maybe there is something else still coming, but it doesn't quite align with the idea that Satan is trapped in the relationship because of the pregnancy. That wouldn't be something that traps Towley at the White House, just Satan. But obviously they're going to be continuing this storyline across the rest of the season. They wouldn't set up a satanic pregnancy like this without the intention of following it up later. And with that kind of a plot often comes dark prophecy type storylines, which again could be similar to what we saw in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, where Terrence and Philip's death saw the rise of Satan onto Earth. I know the season 27 trailer was full of fake episode premises, but they did repurpose the whole Elon ketamine thing, and the trailer also showed a bunch of American-Canadian war imagery. Given that this season is so filled with little callbacks and references to older South Park, and also contains the clear, overt Satan/Saddam references via Trump, I wouldn't hate it if they made the culmination of this season a sort of Bigger, Longer, and Uncut follow-up. Now, they've done follow-ups to the movie previously, but the way Satan is now trapped in this abusive relationship via pregnancy feels like an escalation of his abusive relationship with Saddam, and it kind of makes a ton of sense to harken back directly to that big finale moment from the movie. I actually made a big Satan in South Park video years ago, expecting that it would stay up to date since he had, died at that point. But I might have to do an updated version after this season ends since there's so much Satan stuff here. But overall, I was kind of half in the bag on this episode. The Labubu ritual stuff was great. The way Butters got roped into everything felt like a pretty classic Butters storyline. And the more serialized elements of the season, like Jesus in school and Trump/Satan's butt baby, all have me intrigued and excited to see what comes next. I just didn't feel like this one quite came together in a way that felt as impactful or satisfying as I've liked, but it was fun to see them tackle a more kid-centric topic. I really hope we get a bit more focus on the main 4 boys at some point this season, and also just see how the Marshes are settling back into town after leaving Tegrity Farms behind. There's lots to look forward to with the remaining 6 episodes. The next episode is in 2 weeks on September 17th, so stay tuned. And I, of course, want to know what you think about not just this episode, but the trajectory of this Satan storyline. Let me know below in the comments, and make sure to stay tuned because I'll be covering every episode as it airs. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.